This is the heritage version of Wooten's Gordon Derby boot. Wootten make their boots in 3 series, from the off-the-shelf original series to the limited customization classic series and to this fully customizable heritage series. Let's take a look at this heritage Gordon boot. G'day, welcome back to Bootlosophy, my channel about boots, and my name is Tech, coming to you from Wajak country in Noongar Boodja. This is the Gordon boot from Wootten Cordwainer, based in Ballarat in Victoria. I got measured for this when I went to see their workshop in July this year, and due to the customization, I waited about 3 months before it was shipped to me. You can go see the unboxing I did at that time when I got them. Now, Wootten is a small family-run leather goods workshop that make footwear as well as bags and other leather goods by hand with a very small volume of production. I suppose you can say that Wooten's is more similar to the American Pacific Northwest boot makers, except that due to the volume of the market the P&W boots are in, they're able to scale with a larger workforce and find some economy of scale. Jess and Chris, the owners of Wootten, are intimately involved in every aspect of the manufacturing process and have only 3 or 4 other workers who are being trained by Jess. If you've ever started a small business, you know what I'm talking about. Until your sales volume hits a certain level, you can't really afford to put on more and more staff, and yet without staff it's hard to meet the growing demands, never mind trying to find staff experienced in what you're doing. It's a very small business vicious cycle. In my intro, I spoke of Wootten having 3 series of boots. They have about 7 or 8 basic patterns of boots, and then they add on a couple of derivations like maybe taller shafts, longer heels, or they might add bump guards to them and so on. In most of those models, they will make from time to time small batches that are ready to wear, but with no customization options at all. They're off the shelf. This is what they call the original series. So for example, the Gordon original that's on the website at the moment, things change. There's a non-affiliated link to the website below. The only color you can get at the moment is in saddle tan. In the classic series, the boots are made to order. And there are limited customization options. In the Gordon Classic, you can choose from 5 different colors, 2 lasts, 2 sole options, and 3 edge finishes. And then you graduate to the Heritage Series, where the boots are pretty much fully customizable, where you can choose from 25 to 30 plus colors, depending on the availability. Choose the thread color, eyelet color, and the eyelet speed hook configuration. The choice of the finish on the collar from raw edge to bound. Choose the actual construction method between Mackay stitch and Blake stitch. Choose between 14 sole options, different welt options, and edge finishes. In both the Classic and the Heritage series, you can negotiate to have their lasts customized to your exact measurements for an add-on price. Now, this pair is from the Heritage range, and I will take you through my options. So the style of the Gordon boot is that style that you can call a derby boot, or maybe sometimes a service boot. It's a 6-inch high boot, or to be exact, between 5 to 5.5 inches because of this lovely curve that they put on the collar that slopes back towards the back of your calf, so it's not hitting too high into the back of your leg. The pattern includes a long heel counter that connects all the way to the edge of the quarter piece. And there is a small backstay that kind of pops out from under the long heel counter cover. It has a flat sole and a block heel. I chose the yearling leather, which was hand dyed by Chris in English tan, and then it was hand burnished by Jess at the toe and at the heel. I opted for the cap toe, but you can also get it as a plain toe boot. I also opted for the French binding at the edge of the lace facings and around the collar. I chose a leather sole with a half toppy to protect it. and a stacked leather heel with a rubber insert. You can choose between two lasts or toe shapes basically, and I chose the more almond-shaped Cambridge last for a dressier boot. The Gordon last also has an almond toe, but I found the ridged profile of the toe a little less dressy. Customization included building up the lateral width upper size. As a result of my choices, I feel this is a dressier boot, but in the burnished English tan, also capable of being dressed down in jeans, for example. I have worn it to meetings with a medium grey suit, which allows it to look dressy but relaxed. I have also worn it with cream chinos and a blazer for a relaxed business casual. You can also dress it well down because the colour also goes well with denim for sure. Let's jump straight into the construction. But before I do, can I remind you that if you like what you're seeing, consider clicking on like, and if not already, how about subscribing? Now, to construction. All the materials used were offered by Wootten and chosen by me from Australian makers, although you can also get international materials such as Vibram or Dr. Sol outsoles. If I'm ordering from an Australian boot maker, I'm choosing to think global but act local. It helps the economy, it helps small business, and it helps the environment in whatever small way. Now, starting from the bottom, this is put together using the Mackay welt stitch construction method, otherwise also known sometimes as Blake rapid stitching. Now, in plain old Blake stitching, you assemble the uppers of the boot, and then you glue on an outsole and internally directly stitch the uppers to the outsole. Sometimes you can actually see the Blake stitch underneath. Unless you then cover the outsole with, say, a full slip rubber cover, of course, that stitch will be quite apparent. It's cheap to make, it has some flexibility advantages, but it's said to be a lot less waterproof because moisture can seep through the stitch holes straight inside. Blake stitching also provides a very narrow edge since there is no need for a welt stitch, and so is often found used in making dress shoes, for example. In Blake rapid or Mackay stitching, which is what this is, a stitch is indeed run through the inside directly to the midsole, which is cut a little wider so it looks like there's a welt. Then an outsole, in this case leather, is glued on, and also the toppy, and then an edge welt stitch is run through the midsole and outsole, and you can see that here. The finished item looks like it has a welt, but instead that's actually the edge of the midsole that sticks out. In this case, the edge of the midsole is wheeled with a hot iron so that it looks grooved, and underneath there is a channel carved in the leather outsole so that the stitches are not exposed. A rubber protective half toppy is then glued on to provide a little more grip than raw leather and to protect the leather outsole from wear. There are 3 stacks of leather put into the heel, which is then topped with a leather and rubber insert top lift. Unlike a Goodyear welted boot where the welt going around the edge of the boot creates a cavity which is filled with cork or sometimes foam, in the case of Blake Rapid or Mackay stitching, there's no such cavity because it comes straight down onto the midsole. But Jess Wootten uses a midsole that has a donut hole cut into it, and he fills that donut hole with cork so that you can then get the shock absorption, particularly on the balls of your feet, and the formation of the hills and valleys of the shape of your feet as you wear into them. I showed that method a bit more fully in my review of the Wootten Smith Chelsea boot, so you can go and watch that video to see how that donut hole works. I think currently Jess does all the stitching work, and you can see the pieces of the pattern stitched together with perfect preciseness, and the stitch lines are all clean and even. The top edge of the heel countercover is triple stitched, very closely together as you can see, and the other parts are all double stitched, very precisely. The French binding is very clean, very accurately rolled over, with no raw edges of leather showing, not even at the ends. Inside the boot there is a removable foam insole, and once you take it out, I won't because I can't get my iPhone camera down there. Once you take it out, you can see the veg tan insole with the initial Blake stitch going around the edge of the insole. They also glue a short sock liner at the heel on which they print the brand logo the model, the last, and a few other details. The whole boot, including the tongue, is fully leather lined. The tongue isn't gusseted, and I did find that with some wear, they drifted to the outside of each boot. You can ask for lace keepers to be sewn on, and my wife did. Go and see the unboxing and you'll see how different hers is from me. But I opted to leave them in, them out rather. When their tongue started drifting, I asked Jess, and he said that if I sent them back, they could sew the lace keepers on, or I could get a cobbler to do like a small stitch one side of the tongues to hold them, just a little short one. I didn't want to send the boots back. I didn't want to trust them to a cobbler. So I discussed with him my old approach of cutting 2 slits in the tongue as to whether that might damage the tongue and the lining. But he said it should be fine, so I did. The toe box and the heel counter are both veg tanned leather, wet formed by hand to take the shape. The hardware is antique brass, and I chose 4 smaller eyelets, dressier, and 3 smaller speed hooks. The uppers leather is from a tannery in Geelong, to the southwest of Melbourne and where Ballarat is. So Geelong and Ballarat are only about 90 kilometres away from each other. Think global, act local. It is full grain bovine, and I think it's fully chrome tanned. It's about 3 to just under 4 millimeters thick and has a medium to firm temper, or that's the feel when you try to bend it, and a smooth, firm hand, or that's the feel of the surface. Wootten get it in natural, and then they dye it themselves by hand. On completion, Jess will burnish it by hand as well, just over here and here. If you cast your eye over the whole boot, you honestly can't see a fault, and it's very, very similar to the finish of a Viberg service boot, fine and precise. As this is chrome tanned bovine leather, care is pretty simple. Obviously what you need to do is brush them regularly to avoid any sand or grit to start to damage the leather. Now personally, because I wear these at the dressier end, I tend to brush these at the end of the day after every wear, just before I put them away. Sand, grit and dust, especially if they get moist in the rain or they mix with grease, can become like sandpaper on the leather, so brushing to keep them clean of grit is key. Conditioning should also be easy with a good quality cream product like Venetian Shoe Cream or Saphir Renovateur. Because of the hand burnishing, I'd be careful about conditioners with too much petroleum products, which may lift off some of that burnishing. The leather does take a high polish, so while I tend not to on most of my boots, I will polish these with a high quality boot polish after each conditioning. Again, because of the burnishing, I wouldn't use any cheaper polishes like Kiwi, which is one of my favorites to be honest, but Kiwi might actually have a high solvent content to rub it off. Coming to sizing, fit and comfort. These are custom fitted to the measurements taken on my feet. My size was true to size in the UK convention, a 7.5. However, my feet, and my right foot in particular, is wider than normal, and Wootten's decided to use the E-Fit Last in 7.5 and then build up the lateral measurement to an 8 size last. For my wife, who also got a pair made, she got them made in different lengths on each foot by a half size, I think, and also with width adjustments on both to fit her bunions. Obviously, if you can afford the extra, it's well worth your while to get the fit customized. So on that basis, the fit is obviously great with all that care and attention that was paid to my feet at the very beginning. If it fits snug, I tend to wear these with normal socks, and because the snugness can be too much with thick socks. In wear though, they're quite comfortable. The sole is firm but flexible, so offers a lot of support but doesn't require a lot of break-in. The leather itself is firm but shaped to my feet after only a couple of weeks wear. So again, it offers the support around your ankle without any issues. The shock absorption is pretty good with the leather, cork and removable foam combination under your feet. There's a steel shank which offers enough arch support, and that's beefed up by the design of the last, which kind of tucks in and hugs the curves under your feet. Because of the firm temper of the leather, I can't say it's a soft, comfy boot in that sense. They are comfy, but they're comfy because they're firmly supportive rather than soft and cushy. There is one thing to be aware of though. The binding at the collar makes the collar edge like very firm. Think about it. If you have a piece of thin leather that's rolled over and then it's stitched to the uppers and the lining within a very small thin space, that could make it a very firm area down here. I did find that part of it was quite hard to break in, and if you want a less stiff experience, you should opt for the cut leather edge so you don't have this like double, triple pieces of leather. These are handmade boots, so I will tell you the price and then tell you why I think they're worth it. They are 1,050 Australian dollars. My wife's boots, including all the customization around uneven feet and bunions on both feet, even changing the sizes of the quarters so that they fit it better around her ankles, hers were almost $500 more. Once upon a time, I contacted Trickers in the UK and I asked them how much it would cost to customize a last to my measurements. They have a bespoke service where they take one of their lasts and then they customize it to the precise measurements of your feet. They quoted me a starting price of £3,500 sterling. But for that, they would also keep that last forever in case I ordered another pair again, on the basis that my feet don't change. But the cost of including the making of a dedicated boot tree was also included. But however, on top of that was making a pair of boots. So having a last to your exact foot measurements isn't cheap. Nor, if you ask my wife, who has the worst trouble in shoes, nor is it wasteful, because if they fit your feet, you won't go back to anything else. So value for a handmade boot made with care and precision and fitting you like the literal glove. Yeah, I'd pay those prices any day for something I wear in total comfort that I'd wear forever, and it gives me the looks that I set out for, and as I say, pretty much last forever in time. I know many people are battlers and they truly cannot afford it and they buy Clarks or Timberland. That's fine. I'm not saying everyone needs to buy a pair, but if you can afford one, your feet will never be the same again. So there you are. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, you know what to do. Click on the like button, please, to help me out. And if you're not subscribed, then please consider subscribing now. Click on the sub button down below as well. Next week, I have a couple of interesting videos. I have a boot comparison coming and a sideways look at some boot components. Take care out there, and I'll see you back here soon. Fully customizable. Start again. Customizable, customizable, customizable.